Hello, everybody. I would like to introduce to you Susan Leopold, the Executive Director of United Plant Savers. And she is a fabulous, fun, and funny person and brilliant. And she's doing some very important work in the herbal world regarding the safekeeping of at-risk plants. So I would love to hear a little bit more, Susan, about what brought you to United Plant Savers, whether it was your education that brought you in this direction or, your passion for herbs or all these things conspiring together. Would love to hear a little bit about your story.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for having me on your Zoom recording. I've always been deeply passionate about plants ever since I was a young child. I had an incredible patch of pink lady slippers in my backyard, and I would go commune with them as a child. And it's really some of my most favorite memories. And really, even as a child, I remember feeling as if those lady slippers were plant spirits, and they were my friends, and we had tea parties. And so I think even as a child, I was really tuned in. And I believe I was in my 6th grade science class, and I was asked to go out and collect flowers and make a book. And I had this really incredible science teacher, and I was really proud of my book, and I brought it into class, and he looked at it, and he was like, "Oh my God, you picked pink lady slippers." Aww. And he was like, "You can't pick those because they're endangered." And it was like this big aha moment as like a 6th grader. I was like, what do you mean they're endangered? What do you mean everybody doesn't have lady slippers dancing in their backyard? It was like this moment, like, what does that mean? It was a real significant time in my life when I sort of tapped into the fact that things weren't abundant and they weren't protected, and that whole child reality kind of had a big wake-up call. And so I really pursued studying ethnobotany in college, which is the study of the relationship between people and plants. And I from the very beginning was looking at the conservation element. And I spent a lot of time traveling in the Amazon and doing work in Costa Rica, coming back and getting my master's, and then pursuing my PhD. And while I was pursuing my PhD, I was working at a private horticultural library, studying rare herbals. And I had met Rosemary. Actually, I hosted one of the first fundraisers for United Plant Savers not long after UPS was formed at my farm. But I kind of fallen a little bit out of touch with the organization. And when they were looking for a new director, several different people within the United Plant Savers community reached out to me, like, hey, you should really think about applying for this position. So it just seemed, kind of serendipitous for all the stars aligned. And I literally started the job the same month I defended my dissertation. And so that's and I think now I don't know, I think I want to say I'm in my 6th year, I think this International Herb Symposium in June will mark the beginning of my 7th year as director of United Plant Savers.
And how much do you love the work that you're doing?
I definitely, I'm grateful for the ability to serve as the director of United Plant Savers. I feel very honored to carry on the legacy that Rosemary and many in the herbal world, created a space for. But in all honesty, it's very challenging, and it takes it takes me to places that I have to reaffirm my ability to do this work, because I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I believe that the plants are way more endangered now than they were when United Plant Savers started 24 years ago. So that's the reality of the situation. The herb industry has grown way quicker than those that are protecting the plants. And it's time to, so I'm often carrying that message of a major wake-up call for people who are passionate about plants. We're not stepping up to the plate. So in that regard, it's very emotionally challenging.
A heavy burden.
It's a heavy burden to carry. Mm-hmm. And I think, I think everybody feels it. If you don't know about plants, or if you just care about what's going on in your community, we're all seeing it and feeling it in different ways.
Yeah.
Whether it's the struggle with how we raise our children, or it's a struggle with how we care for our families, or if it's the struggle of how we, find balance with the amount of development that's happening around all of us. The herb industry is just one component of the pressure on plants. I mean, it's kind of the perfect storm, because we're losing habitat at such a rapid rate. Global biodiversity is disappearing before our eyes. So what is this planet going to look like in 50 years? And that's not that far away. That's just my children's children, So, I'm absolutely tuned into these specific at-risk medicinal plants, but you can't deny what's happening on a global scale. And we're actually a little protected here. I mean, when you look at what's going on in Africa or India or China, I mean, we had a man come from Nigeria who's head of the universities in the agroforestry, and he came to study at our sanctuary in Rutland, Ohio, and he was blown away because he was able to see forests.
Oh.
I mean, in Africa, where he's, they have degrees of how degraded the landscape is to whether or not it could ever support a forest ecosystem.
Wow.
So we're kind of protected in our, and that's just a reality to put it in the bigger perspective.
Right.
We're facing the biggest humanitarian crisis we'll ever see in our generation. That's going to happen in Africa with people, facing famine and starvation. I mean, it's, so I hate to be such a, but it's a heavy burden.
Yeah, it is. And it is your job, I think, as somebody who's traveled worldwide, right? You've traveled quite a bit, and to bring back the news, we won't shoot the messenger. Really, we're here to support you. And
right.
And actually, I was going to ask you this in a minute, but let's just jump right ahead to that question, which is, so for those listening who are really new to even the thought that there are plants that are endangered in any sort of way, or even this more global issue of, starvation, and
right.
What are some simple ways somebody could start even today to make a difference? And collectively, this would be supporting your organization and also maybe beyond that.
Right. I think obviously I encourage people to join United Plant Savers to support the work that we do, because most people think, oh, United Plant Savers is maybe this big organization. We're actually very small. It's me as the director. John works in the office in Ohio. And then we have Chip, who's our sanctuary steward. So we're a 3-people operation. It's not some big organization. But needless to say, all of our information about at-risk medicinal plants is on our website, and very accessible. So I encourage people to just make themselves aware about United Plant Savers and about the plants on our at-risk list. I would say the second thing is, as you get interested in herbal medicine, really look to see what's just growing in your yard.
Mhm.
Look to see what's growing in your community. And I really am a big proponent of bioregional herbalism. We don't need to go to the store and buy maca from Peru. We don't need to, the exotic thing is not often the best thing. And actually, the medicine that we need is often growing right in our own area, in our, what's growing in your front yard. What's the message of those plants, and so that's some place anybody can start, because I really believe that plants are communicating with us at all times. So it's just like opening that door to awareness and learning what plants are closest to you. And then I'd say the third thing is, if you are going to buy herbal medicine, take the time to educate yourself about what the ingredients are and learn about the life cycle of those plants. I mean, some plants like dandelion or thyme, these plants can be grown really easily, and they're very accessible medicine. If you're going to choose to use a plant like black cohosh, that might be a root that's 10, 20 years old, you should really know about where that plant comes from, because that medicine may be older than even you are. And how can that plant replenish itself? So these are questions that, as consumers of herbal medicine, we should be asking. We shouldn't be asking just, oh, what can that plant do for us? But how long did that plant take to grow? And where did that plant come from? And what's the ecology of that plant? We should be learning the botany and the ecology of that plant alongside of learning what that plant's medicinal properties are. And then we should be asking, is this the right use of this plant?
So what are some good resources for people to have at hand when they're, wanting to do that, besides just searching the internet?
Right. Well, I mean, it is amazing how much information is out there as far as, well, I mean, United Plant Savers has a great website with lots of information and resources, but, if you want to learn about a plant, you can go on the internet and learn about the history of the plant. I think it's just taking that intention to do that. Let me, hold on.
Okay, that's not too noisy, so it's fine. So I was wondering also, you've traveled quite a bit. Do you travel as part of your work, or do you travel just as part of your passion for travel?
I would say a little bit of both. I probably I travel quite a bit throughout the United States in regards to the work with United Plant Savers. I've been traveling a lot out to Colorado. We have a big project that we've been working on with the sustainable harvesting of OSHA. And I've been to Hawaii quite a bit, because we are working very hard on bringing awareness to the harvesting of endemic Hawaiian sandalwood. And I'm a really passionate tree hugger, so I really love to, I want to see like I want to see the big trees before they're gone. And I know that's just like a personal passion. So when I can, I like to seek out certain hot spots for tree climbing.
And
I do.
Are you a tree climber?
Yes. And for me, I really, I was tree climbing, I started off as a rock climber when I was a teenager. And so, I got familiar with the equipment, but I really didn't like, it's intense, rock climbing with your hands and the rocks. And, I wasn't feeling that, like, you're so intense on that hold that you have, that you don't really get to just like soak in the moment. And when I was in Peru back in 1996, I set up my own system to climb the trees where I was living outside of Iquitos. And then I got a gig helping set up a tree canopy bridge in Panama. And now you see it's really grown, right? There's all kinds of, the zip lines and the, different canopy tours and things like that. But for me, I don't really, it's not about zipping through the forest. It's not about getting up there and having this, like, again, it's like the same thing with rock climbing. It's not about getting up there and like zipping through the canopy. For me, it's about climbing up into a tree and just being there and like meditating on the fact that this tree has been living in the same place its entire life.
Yeah.
And what does that feel like to be rooted in your environment? And I'm super passionate about Suzanne Simard. She is the woman behind the research. You can just Google Mother Tree, and her research has really demonstrated the fact that it's not necessarily this concept of survival of the fittest that we think of when we look into nature, that actually trees are for the benefit of the entire community. So they're sending their resources to help those trees that are sick. They're sending resources to young trees that need certain energy to grow. So, for me to just be up in the canopy of a tree, I don't know, my heavy-heartedness kind of lifts for a moment.
Yeah.
And then I can just be like literally high. I can be high on the forest, and the fact that this tree is like knows its environment because it's there. They're our ancestors. They've been here long before we came into this planet. And if we want to, really honor their legacy, right? We need to protect the trees. And so just being with them is kind of what nourishes me. I guess everybody has that thing, right? And
yeah,
for me it's them. And each time I climb a tree, I get a different sort of high, where I just like I just remember them. So
that inspires me. Yeah, I want to climb a tree. I was a big tree climber when I was a kid, but and I guess I haven't had, even the thought that I might do that. So I love that. So I hope you're taking pictures when you come to the Women's Herbal Conference. Susan,
I will.
Yeah, Susan will be our opening keynote speaker in September at the Women's Herbal Conference, the MidAtlantic Women's Herbal Conference in Pennsylvania. And we're really excited to have her come and teach our group. And she will also be teaching an online class on the Ginger Juice VIP, and she's going to talk about some of these at-risk plants and giving you some hints, I think, for using your bioregional local plants. Help you think of some of the ones that might be handy to use. So with that, Susan, we're going to let you get on with your hard work, and we're very, very grateful to you for what you're doing. Everybody, if you think about a donation to United Plant Savers, you can join. Your membership as a donation to the work that she is doing. But if you can't afford anything other than $5, if my group donated $5 each, we would raise $1,500 for United Plant Savers. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't take much to make a difference.
Yeah, it doesn't take much, and we don't need to raise millions of dollars. We just need to sustain the work we're doing. So it's not a big ask. And I would also say that for those that are watching or thinking about attending the women's conference in October, Rosemary is not doing much of these conferences anymore, and we rarely get to be together. So I think to have the two of us together at one of these conferences is going to be a really rare
Powerful
opportunity.
energy, yeah.
Yeah,
And it's an intimate group. You know, a lot of these conferences are, you know, hundreds and hundreds of women, and this is an intimate group. It's, you know, 200 to 300 women. So it's really fun. It's a real sisterhood. So I think you'll love it, Susan. I'm so excited you're
I
coming.
am too. I am too. We've been trying to make this happen and it didn't quite work out, but now it seems like it all makes sense, right? Now it's meant to be because
Lining up with Rosemary coming, yeah. So
yeah.
it's just gonna be one of the best ever. I know it.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you again, Susan, and we'll be in touch soon.
Okay.